I make my decisions on the basis of my moral commitment, and I take my ministry very seriously. I would not say that the civil rights movement is dead. It's simply that we are moving to a new phase of the movement. For now 12 years, we struggle to end legal segregation and all of the humiliation surrounding legal segregation. So it was a struggle for decency. It was a struggle to get rid of extremist behavior toward Negroes. Now we are in a new phase, and that is a phase where we are seeking genuine equality, where we are dealing with hard economic and social issues. And it means that the job is much more difficult. It's much easier to integrate a lunch counter than it is to guarantee an annual income. It's much easier to integrate a bus than it is to get a program that will force the government to put billions of dollars into ending slums. It's a wonderful thing to work and be concerned about integrating public accommodations, or integrating the public schools, which I will continue to work for with vigor and with zeal. But I've also got to be concerned about the survival of a world in which to be integrated. And these issues to me are tied together in that sense.
How did you arrive at this decision, and who influenced your thinking?
I thought about it for several months, and finally I went away to write a book in Jamaica where I had a chance to reflect and meditate and do a great deal of thinking about the war in Vietnam. And I came to the conclusion then that I had no alternative but to take a vigorous stand against the war.
Dr. King, when you speak out against this war, do you speak as a Negro opponent of the war? Is there something especially anti-Negro or racist about the war that tells you to speak out?
I cannot overlook the fact that I am a Negro, and that this war is doing a great deal to destroy the lives.
Check your audio, CJ.
All right. It cuts off right there. Welcome, everybody, to the Nick and CJ show on this Monday, May 16th. It actually happens to be my older brother's, the one right above me. I have 3 older brothers. Birthday. So happy birthday to him. His name is Matt. And what's up, Nick? How you doing?
What's going on, CJ? It's good to be back on the Nick and CJ show. And also want to big say thank you to you guys as well, because we hit 17,000 subscribers as well. So we've been almost gaining it, like just under 100 subs.
I wish.
I wish. But it's been almost 100 subs a day. So because you guys have been sharing, the algorithm hasn't been our friend. So we definitely appreciate that. And we were talking yesterday. We usually always meet on Sundays, and CJ was telling me, like, man, we need to really start planning like how we can get more involved in this movement than what we already have been. And that's the thing that's most exciting to me, because we already, like, in our 1 year of being in independent media, being engaged in actions, we had 5 speakers during the March for Medicare for All event. Like, we are the network that on the front lines. I was on the ground report on Casey Tennis. We got Tour for the Poor going on, and we just going forward. Like, you guys gonna see RBN doing big stuff. Like, I was talking to Rome about helping unionized workers. Don't know how that'll work, but we might as well try. I'm showing support to Casey Tenants, like spotlighting the first ever citywide tenant unions. Like, imagine if we can help spotlight these things on a national scale. Like, and that's why I was like, I'll fire it up, because we were talking yesterday, and see, like, let's figure out like how we're gonna expand this organization, like what we're really gonna do outside of just live streaming. And that's the future of this network. So we got a lot of crazy stuff planned. At least I do, because this fight is getting even more intense, and we advocate for direct action, community building, and I think that's what that's what I'm trying to do. We got to start the community building process, and then we got like me, Josana, the Bank Sisters. We're working on an action right now. Like, we got this kind of stuff. Like, you guys never seen a left media channel like this, and I hope as we continue to grow, we got to continue to push those actions to you guys. So that's all I have to say. Thank you guys for the 17K. And for anyone who supports on Rockfin and Colin, I just look on Rockfin. We got like 5,000 followers on that. Like,
yeah, I was gonna say we've hit a milestone on Rockfin also. It's a smaller milestone, but it is a milestone nevertheless, which is 5,500. So happy to say we're at 5,500 subscribers on Rockfin, and then we do have to get reconnected, Nick, on Facebook because we haven't been streaming on Facebook for the last part of last week and today, but that's our official subscriber count as of now. So let's keep adding on, keep sharing. It's very, very important. I've been doing this through my streams where I just stop in the story, several commercials where it's just me saying, hey, like the stream, let's make sure we're adding on to get more people. When you like the stream, it's good for the people watching too, because you're able to have more people to talk about. And when you like the stream, you know what I noticed, Nick? We start to get some conservative, like people with opposite views in the chat.
Yeah, and
that's another good thing. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We want that. So
I'm
keep
down,
liking to get more people.
We're down for the exchange of ideas. And I saw earlier you streaming. There's like a ton of people that immediately was watching. We had like 400 people.
Yeah, I think they were Tucker people.
Yeah, and I think those saw and that's because you guys help us in the algorithm. Like when you guys like it and you guys get there early. And I noticed that like that boost. And I think a lot of conservatives was watching. God, like, damn, there's like 500 people in like 5 minutes, and then they were like, "Oh shit, this motherfucker."
Oh, it was like, "Nah, he's not on our side."
So, with that said, I think it's a good time to discuss this because you had a great live stream, and I love this new format that we have on the network where you see CJ in the morning, I'll be in the evenings.
Yeah,
I may do a new show. Like it's like different. Like there's Sabby, she's been fucking killing the game. She got her show at 6. She's like a sister channel to our network. I really love the situation, the setup that we have. JB5, like we need more of you guys to subscribe to the channel as well. But I haven't had a chance to talk about the Buffalo shooting, right? And CJ did a great job breaking it down. I was watching your live stream as long as I could. And I love the question that you posed, like, how is left media gonna cover this? and I wonder, like, if they're gonna wait if we're doing the stream, see what we're gonna say, because we definitely noticed that. We definitely noticed that people will like imitate like the taste that we have or whatever. But anyway, I want to make something clear because there've been a lot of fucking insane shit libbery after the shooting, and I'm glad that we have a platform so we can set the left straight. Well, I consider myself like a black Marxist. I think that's accurate to say. We all come to the same conclusion, but I also see a lot of leftists who have no revolutionary discipline. There's no other way to say it. Where I see them advocating for like gun control, and I want us to be clear here. You have the expansion of the police state as we know it. We have rising white supremacy, not rising. That's actually misleading for me to say that. White supremacy, domestic terrorism. It's always been
it's always been there.
So I had to correct myself. That's actually inaccurate to say it's rising. It's not rising. This shit always been here. We just got cameras and shit now. We got internet and shit now.
Right.
So this may piss some people off, but if white America, if y'all want to disarm yourselves, I'm not gonna stop you. I'm not advocating for it, but if you guys like, let's all take our guns away, go ahead, bro. I'm not even gonna stop you. But I want the message to RBN, and you guys are watching this live stream where I get my first take on this. We are not disarming. The black community, the working class, do not disarm, especially in this time.
Right.
And I told you, as a martial artist, I don't even like guns like that. You know, that's the funny thing is, I'm in my more liberal-minded days. I always knew how to fight, so I had like this inherent bias where I didn't like guns because I'm like, man, I hate that this shit evens the playing field, man. So it's not like I don't even have a bias, guys. This is just based on objective political analysis. Why will you advocate for disarming the black working class? I think the working class, period, should be armed. But if white America decides that you guys want to disarm, do not include us in that conversation. Right? And the reason I'm bringing this up is because I've seen liberals. I've seen people who they don't even have that bad politics. That's the bad part about it. I can't even just say just shit lips. There are people I like who had good politics. I like, yeah, man, it's just another example of how we can't get gun control under. There's so many things that we can break down that lead to the story. I want to get your thoughts, CJ. This is just my initial monologue, and I got a few more things I want to add. But like, there's so many ways you can dissect this problem, and there's so many blame that you can put on society. The idea that you can immediately push the idea of disarming and stripping power from the working class while the police have guns, disarm the police, disarm the military, then get back to me.
Yeah.
You don't disarm us before you disarm the state.
Right.
And if you're on the left, this should be common sense. But I know I've been talking for a while. That's my initial monologue.
I don't think it's common sense. I don't think it's common sense. I don't think it's common sense for the media voices pre-RBN, pre-FHL. I don't think it's common sense for them. And it may not even be intentional. We have to face the facts, or left media have to face the facts that there's a blind spot when it comes to left media because it's mostly white. So when we have issues like this, how is it being covered? This is why I posed the question earlier. But I don't want to move forward too much in the conversation. Before I ask you this, Nick, your reaction to when that guy said something. So I'm gonna put it there. I want to just tell me, what are you thinking when this guy asked Martin Luther King with a straight face?
I was like, what?
Listen to this.
Also, but got to be concerned about the survival of a world in which to be integrated. And these issues, to me, are tied together in that sense.
How did you arrive at this decision, and who influenced your thinking?
I thought about it for several months, and finally I went away to write a book in Jamaica, where I had a chance to reflect and meditate and do a great deal of thinking about the world.
Oh, you know what? I think I skipped over it.
Wonderful is hard.
Arrive at your thinking.
For where I went away to write a book in Jamaica, where I had a chance to reflect and meditate and do a great deal of thinking about the war in Vietnam. And I came to the conclusion then that I had no alternative but to take a vigorous stand against the war.
Dr. King, when you speak out against this war, do you speak as a Negro opponent of the war? Is there something especially anti-Negro or racist about the war that impels you to speak out?
What do you think of the question?
This is why they will never show this MLK. This is not like they don't even know they don't even know how to ask him a question.
No, they don't.
He was so ahead of the time. You guys have no idea how ahead of time MLK and Malcolm X. Those are the people we take inspiration from. Fred Hampton, right. A lot of our old revolutionary leaders. They were.
You notice they always. You notice they always go to the "I Have a Dream" speech when he has literally like dozens and dozens of speeches, but the only one that "I Have a Dream," people literally think that's the only speech that he made. Like, he has several speeches, labor speeches.
They never
speeches about imperialism.
They never showed the speech that we play on this show multiple times. Wonder if I can dig it up maybe later. But where he says, well, and everyone say, oh, well, MLK was like this optimist who believed in peaceful change. And he later was saying, like, yo, I actually think I was misguided. Like, he literally said, if I had to do the show all over again, I wouldn't do it this way. Like, I actually now fighting against the empire, I realize that you need different strategies. Nah, this whole kumbaya shit is not the way to go. We need a more militant strategy. We need more proletariat, organizational based strategy instead of just hoping that they'll give us. Like, this is what he was saying. I played the whole interviews later in his life where he was like, that hope shit wasn't working for us, bro. Like, we need a new strategy. And then once you start saying that shit, they killed him. Once you start bringing up the working class alliances, the rainbow coalitions, once we start challenging militarism, as we're going to talk about here later,
organizing labor.
Yeah, that's when they were like, "You're done. We're killing you."
I was like, "Oh no!" It was like, "Oh no!"
And when you hear Malcolm, and you play them all the time. That's why I love when CJ played those clips in the beginning. But when you hear Malcolm X speak, it's like, yeah, of course they killed him. Like, there's no way they let that guy stay alive. Of course they did. They even just killed his daughter recently. They're like, nah, we can't have these people walking around. The people who
somebody else's mom got killed too. Oh, Martin Luther King's mom, Alberta, got killed too. You think that's a coincidence? How are these people that's connected to all these radical leaders just happen to be getting killed?
Meanwhile,
it's not a coincidence.
Meanwhile, the people who sell out to empire, like John Lewis, those civil rights icons, who he helped destabilize and destroy Libya. So we about to talk about Africa today. That's something that he joined with Barack Obama. Like Trump he withdrew the troops in Somalia, but I don't want to paint Trump as like anywhere near anti-imperialist, because he actually bombed Somalia too, guys. I want you guys to realize that. But Trump actually pulled out troops in Somalia, and then Biden escalated more. And now the war on terror in Africa really escalated under Barack Obama with Libya, right? And that's John Lewis. John Lewis rallied the troops. He rallied the Black Congressional Caucus in order to approve an amendment so Barack Obama do not need congressional approval in order to launch that war. So everyone criticizing Russia, but you guys know Russia got approval through the Senate. People pretend that Putin is just this madman, but this is going to Russian geopolitical politics. They warned if NATO expands, there will be actions. And that not just Putin. Every single Russian politician believed this. That's why he was able to get approval through the Senate. So you can criticize that action all you want, but when was the last time the United States got approval for military action? Joe Biden, no congressional approval, no declaration of war. He's sending troops to Somalia. No debate. He's sending troops to Somalia. No debate. Thank God for Rand Paul, right? But they were about to send Ukraine aid package with no debate. Isn't it funny how that worked? They want to say, "Oh, Putin is a dictator." There's more fucking debate, and there was a more cohesive branch of government decision when Russia invaded Ukraine than this. There's no debate about Somalia. Do people know why we're there? What could the average American person
freedom?
Can the average American person explain to you why we're in Somalia? Can the average American person explain to you why we took out Gaddafi? Because he decided to wage war against the petrodollar. He wanted to create an African union, African state. He wanted to create his own currency independent from the petrodollar. So they killed his ass. And John Lewis was like, hell yes. That's the black people. See how I bring it back around? Those are the black people they let. They stay alive. Right. They get all the perks of being a hero, right?
And they get all the gratitude of the person that the actual radicals that died that they were adjacent to usually. Just wanted to put just an article up there that just kind of the headline shows what we're talking about, or we're gonna be talking about, which is, let me make sure this is in the peripheral there. How come it's not coming down? All right. 1 second, Nick. All right, but this is an AP article. Not necessarily going to read the article. This is just to show what we're talking about today. Can I do?
Yeah, we getting back to the shooting. So I explained one of the reactions I seen from mainstream liberal culture, right? Obviously, the right have their own response, which is double down and ramp up the culture war, right? But then the liberals have their coordinated response. And this is why I mentioned I'm very interested in seeing how left media covered, because we was very critical. And they was very critical of me in response on how I covered January 6th. OG viewers of the channel, people who've been following my Twitter, people who've been following me for a while, they know the story. All the people I pissed off on the eve of January 6th. You had all the white leftists that was saying stuff like, "Oh my God, January 6th, the worst thing ever." And I'm like, guys, pump your damn brakes. You guys are manufacturing consent for the police state. And they used that and justified and say, oh my God, we had this white supremacist attack on the Capitol. And they used that to fund the police more, which is exactly what I warned. Isn't that fun? I'm like, guys, this does not serve our interest to join the establishment in this security state expansion that they was loud about it. After January 6th, they're like, we need to find a way to expand security. They gave Capitol Police surveillance powers, and the white left, who fearmongered over January 6th, instead of calling it out as we did, the police was complicit in January 6th. Right. It was an event that benefited both political parties. I'm not going to get back into our analysis, but we explained it many times. It served the left. No, it served our interest none at all to go along with the Democratic Party talking points, because to me it was obvious what was going to happen. They use that to expand the state, because this is what the Democratic Party always do. I'll get you right in here, CJ. The Democratic Party always, they fearmonger over white supremacy, terrorism, and crime in order to expand the state. And then once they expand the state, they're not going after white supremacists and mass shooters. There's a report that this guy was already on the radar of the FBI. They didn't do anything because that's not their job. The FBI job is to create terrorism, not solve it. So they want to take any opportunity to expand the police state, and then they will turn that energy against the left, against the workers. So they fearmongered over January 6th and expand the Capitol Police budget. And do you want to know what happened right after that? We covered this on RBN. Right after they expanded the Capitol Police budget, there was indigenous people that were protesting Line 3 because this is a corporate takeover of our government. The Supreme Court also cited by Ruth Bader Ginsburg, ruled that corporations can drill on indigenous lands. So you had Line 3 and a bunch of indigenous activists and their allies protesting that at the Capitol. And unlike January 6th, they didn't let them in. They didn't give them a tour of the Capitol. They busted their head in. There was videos on Twitter of indigenous activists being attacked. You see how they push and say, oh, we're going to fight white supremacy. We're going to fight terrorism. But then they use that state expansion to fight workers. And that's what they're going to do on this shooting. They already planned it, CJ. You see how they're talking about social media?
Yes, and they're going to use this.
You talk about this as well. And I'm also trying, like, because CJ did a great job breaking this down, because I want to give you guys all the different ways of looking at this and how they cover in this event. They're saying, oh, social media is leading to the rise of white domestic terror. As if they didn't have racist family members in communities that passed this idea down for generations. As if passing down white supremacist ideas just was invented when Twitter started. Do you guys really think the passing and spreading of white supremacist ideas started with Twitter and Facebook? That's ridiculous. But now they're using this as an excuse to ramp up social media power. So they can do what? They can censor. And they're not going to go after the white supremacists. They may take out a few for appearances, but they're going to go after anti-war voices like they have been. Like they deplatformed Lee Camp. They deplatformed RT. They deplatformed Sandinistas in Nicaragua that was exposing CIA interference in their elections. And Instagram and Facebook pulled their pages. I covered this on our channel. This is how they play the game. They will never let a tragedy go to waste. Hell,
never.
The FBI grooms a lot of these people. I covered that before. The FBI creates more terrorism than they solve. Terrorism happens, crime goes up, then they use that as an excuse to expand the police, take our liberties away, even though the police did nothing to stop the mass shooting in the first place. Isn't it funny how that works? CJ, you have anything you want to add?
I mean, as far as the Buffalo shooting goes, I called it from the beginning, like on Saturday. Yeah, I went on like a few hours after it happened. I was like, what they're gonna do? They're gonna use this to fund the police state, and censorship. I think I tweeted it out too. Maybe I'll pull it up.
Yeah, exactly.
The tweet, but yeah, like they're gonna and censorship. Those are the two things they're going to do. Now, the police. Why didn't the police stop this shooting? If giving more money to police because of this shooting is the answer, why didn't they stop it? They have money, so why didn't police stop this? Because police don't stop crimes. But somehow the American public is in this illogical circular logic of give police more money so crime rate goes down, give police more money because crime rate go down, even though the police can't affect the crime rate going down because they don't stop crime. What they could do is affect crimes being solved, which they do a very poor job of. I don't have the numbers now, but they do a very, very poor job of. But the other thing, Nick, on top of these two things that I see is that then you have a certain segment of people that's using this to take the opportunity to play the blue-red game with Tucker Carlson.
Yes.
And it's like, ha, Tucker Carlson. It's like, first off, you're pulling up clips from years ago to prove your point. I'm not even defending it. I'm just saying you're saying he does this all the time and he influenced this, but this clip came out clearly like a year ago. That the clip that they're playing. But the point that I'm making is that we all know Tucker Carlson is a racist. We all know that he's a racist. And we know that he has talked about this. But for you to think that the replacement theory, which is the genesis of white supremacy, is the fear, and I always say this in my streams or old streams, white racism or racism stems from fear, not of the idea that you really believe you're superior. It stems from fear. Replacement theory is one of those fears, and I gave an example, and I'm like, just imagine, let's say, we have this multicultural society, or let's say you land up on Africa, and peaceful at first. You bring some people, some family, community, you're living together, right? One of your tribe mixes with the Europeans that's here, friendly. The baby that comes out looks black. That's where the fear of being erased comes from. Because what do we call mixed races that's mixed with black? We call them black, even though they're biracial. So this connects to the fear, because this was the replacement theory. Nick has a history, and I'll bring up the articles from The Guardian. I showed it earlier. Has a history. It was used when there was talk about interracial marriages. It was also used in this manner. Right. This is not new. This is literally hundreds of years that this sort of thinking has been in a way. Go ahead. In play, I mean.
Tucker Carlson is literally the mouthpiece of the policies of the U.S. empire.
Right.
Do you guys realize that? People pretend this is a Tucker Carlson problem. And it's very convenient for white America, as you explained. It's very convenient for white America to be like, man, Tucker Carlson really brought back racism. We solved racism with Obama. We elected Barack Obama, man. Racism was solved. Then Tucker Carlson came, he brought it back.
Yes.
Fucking Tucker Carlson bringing back racism. God damn it. And guys, I clown Tucker Carlson how many times on the show? You guys know my opinion of Tucker. He is literally unimpressive, and I think people who do not see past him are fucking morons. His propaganda is so easy to see through. He literally pretends to support working class issues.
Right.
And I just saw a segment, and this is not coming from someone out ignorance. I watch a lot of his segments, and I'm like, bro, this dude is such a propagandist. He was talking about the baby formula shortage. I just watched a segment he just did recently. And then somehow he went from talking about the baby formula shortage and how the economy is failing workers, and then he blames it on trans people in woke culture. And I'm like, bro, how the fuck do you make that connection? Instead of putting the attention on the people, the corporate greed, calling them out by name, he talks about the issue, And then he like, I'm gonna bring, no matter what the issue is, it could be a legitimate issue. And he like, I'm gonna frame it back to the culture war. And he say, oh, so the gay people, the trans people, the left is the reason why this is happening. Why
you know what I call it? The Southern strategy. He's broadcasting the Southern strategy. So it's the Southern strategy of appealing to not racist people, but they're gonna be attracted to. But those people who think they're not racist, but they think these sort of things of, oh, you know, replacement. Yeah, you know, there's a fear of these people and that people, but they don't internalize that as them being racist, right? It's the Southern strategy where you're appealing to that sort of side without explicitly saying it. That's what he does every day. He's doing the worker, but he's appealing to those workers and then dropping in some like white racism in it. I'm sorry, I keep saying white racism, but racism.
Workers. He does that to divide the workers. There's no reason for workers across borders to be fighting against each other. Like the belief in open border is something that was a libertarian belief and a Marxist belief, because borders are literally only there to control the workers. So what Tucker Carlson wants to do, he wants to pit the workers against each other, because there's no argument to be made. Because if you look at the massive amount of corporate profit, if you want to blame the immigrant for drops in wages, that doesn't make sense when you're literally making record profits. Right. That immigrant has nothing to do with the fact that your boss is not paying your fair labor value. So instead of Tucker Carlson explaining that your boss, because he is greed, because of capitalist greed, he is not paying your fair labor value. That has nothing to do with the illegal immigrant. That has nothing to do. In fact, the border is a class construct. What stops people from moving across borders? Money. Why do you think companies are able to open factories overseas? So the Marxist argument is, if you can open companies overseas, if rich people can move overseas, and they can do that whenever they want because the only obstacle is cost, workers should be able to move too. You can't have one without the other. If you want to ban workers from moving, you got to ban companies from moving. That's why a lot of socialists and Marxists, a lot of Marxists and socialists, they believe in workers' protections. Because they're like, bro, if you're going to move your companies, you better protect the workers or allow the workers to move. Tucker is not explaining this concept to his audience. He wants them to be afraid of the brown and black boogeyman.
Right. And I'm glad you brought up immigration.
They're not afraid. Donald Trump is not afraid of them. Tucker is not afraid of them. They use their labor. Republicans use their labor. They don't give a fuck about this issue. They acknowledge that it's a wedge issue that can be used to divide the workers so they can continue to do their capitalist bidding. And this is not a liberal critique of Tucker Carlson, because a lot of the liberal critiques, as you're about to explain here soon, it's bullshit. But this is what Tucker Carlson does to divide the workers. Trans people are workers. Black and brown people are workers. So pushing the great replacement theory, that is a culture war meant to divide the workers. How is that not clear for people? People say, oh, why are being always play the race card? No, we're not. We play in class solidarity. If you stand solidarity with us, we stand solidarity with you. It's literally that simple. That is not what the great replacement theory is. And I explained it multiple times. Tucker Carlson and the Republican Party is literally just white identity politics. Everything they put on the left is pure projection. They say the left engaged in nothing but culture war and identity politics. No, motherfucker, that's y'all. Y'all literally push the white displacement theory. And you guys operate your entire politics based off, oh my God, white people about to be replaced.
and I'm glad you brought I'm glad you brought up immigration. I'm glad because you interjected immigration. Damn, I lost it. Yeah. This is it. No, this is it. Right. Immigration. For those that are saying that Tucker Carlson, this replacement theory, because they jumped on him. What do you think one of the top issues on Fox News, or on Fox, and the top issues for white America is what, Nick? Immigration. What do you think them being against immigration is? It's about the replacement theory. This is what I'm saying, Nick. Tucker Carlson is not convincing people of replacement theory. All he is doing is reflecting what they already believe.
Yes, Why you guys think he's the most popular cable news host?
Right.
Like that's a reflection on white America.
This is what they think, Nick. Regular white people who aren't racist are going, hey, there goes Tucker Carlson. He said the replacement. Forget being non-racist. I'm racist again. Like, nobody's doing that.
I used to be cool with white people.
He's preaching to the choir. That's what he's doing.
I love that you explain that. Like a white dude was like, I was okay with black people before, but I tuned into Tucker Carlson. He made a lot of good points. I'm done with them. He became the most popular cable news host because he's echoing the beliefs of white America. The Republican Party is literally white identity politics, and do not allow them to put that on the left. Why you guys think I've been pushing back against this woke culture war? People are like, oh my God, the left is woke. Nah, y'all motherfuckers are woke. Look, you guys are pushing, oh my God, we're going to be replaced. That white wokeism. That's not what I call it. But once again, we have fun because I want to do that meme segment because I want you guys to know I'm not a fan of Tucker Carlson in the least bit. In fact, we drag him a lot here.
Yeah,
but let me explain to you my next point. If Tucker Carlson leaves and disappears tomorrow, we will still live in a white supremacist police state. Like, imagine if Thanos, we snapped that motherfucker out of existence. We would still live in a white supremacist society with an insane immigration system. So, remember what I said before. Our government, Tucker Carlson, is the mouthpiece of our policy. The same reason they hated Trump, because he would say the quiet part out loud. Tucker Carlson killing the game of cable news because he's just saying, hey, white people, this is what we're doing. We want to make sure that we don't get the place. He just saying the loud part. He's saying they all agree with. And now you guys don't, and this is why we reject the red-blue game. I've shared this many times. Why do they think Tucker Carlson is beyond the pale? Let's think about this slowly. Tucker Carlson and Trump is beyond the pale because of their harsh immigration policy. That is where the replacement theory. This is where the practical application of that shows, because they are hard on immigration because they're afraid of white people being replaced. But Joe Biden literally expanding ICE and expanding the border industrial complex more than Trump, the same way Barack Obama was the deporter in chief. And then Donald Trump came in, and Donald Trump actually deported less people than Barack Obama. So Joe Biden literally expanded Trump's war on Title 42, which illegally deported asylum seekers. And now let me show you guys what it means to legislate Tucker Carlson's ideas and why it's so ridiculous to pretend he's the problem. Despite the fact that you heard us roast him. I can roast Tucker Carlson all day. One day, I'm literally going to do a stream where we just watch his segments, and I literally cannot believe how ridiculous they are. It's literally so stupid. Like the lowest common denominator shit. But he is not the problem. He is just a mouthpiece of this policy.
I got a couple of videos. Don't worry, Nick. I'll bring them up later for you to see.
Yeah. As I explained here, the Biden administration put out a fiscal year 2023 budget, which proposed a $97.3 billion for DHS, the agency's largest in its 2 decades history. But tell me more about how Tucker Carlson is the white supremacist threat. The Custom and Border Protection part of that, $17.5 billion, will be the most that agency has ever received. More than 1.5 billion more than last year. Immigration Custom Enforcement will get 8.5, still an increase. If you combine those two, that's $26 billion, which will be the highest sum ever, ever, under Joe Biden, not Donald Trump, ever, dedicated to border and immigration enforcement. Let me ask you guys, is Tucker Carlson writing this policy? Did Tucker Carlson sign the check to DHS? Shit libs. The people who got Tucker Carlson derangement syndrome, the people who voted for Joe Biden, they're people who voted for Joe Biden, and then they plan to do it again. They're going to do it again. They plan on doing it again, and then they want to say, oh my God, Tucker Carlson is the source of white supremacy in this country.
Right.
So look at this. That's significantly more than the $20 billion that Trump put out. So he is expanding the border industrial complex. Joe Biden, Jim Crow Joe, is legislating the ideology of the right. But isn't it incredible how they managed to turn into a red-blue game? They're still saying, oh, we got boycott Tucker Carlson. Who's the real threat? As I said before, if Tucker Carlson disappears, nothing changes. Nothing changes. Now, I want to cover this one last part regarding the shooter.
Let me.
We got another video.
I just want to not
ahead.
a video, but I just want to read the details because it is because we didn't, just so people know if you may not have heard the story. Let me just read a little bit, like the shooter when it happened and some of the details. So a white 18-year-old wearing military gear and live streaming with a helmet camera opened fire with a rifle at a supermarket in Buffalo, killing 10 people and wounding 3 others Saturday in what authorities described as racially motivated violent extremism. Police said he shot 11 black and 2 white victims before surrendering to authorities in a rampage he broadcast live on the streaming platform Twitch. Later, he appeared before a judge in a paper medical gown. Wow. And was arraigned on a murder charge. On a murder charge or not 10? Okay. Let me just read a couple of more parts here. Let me just see. I'm not going to read the names because maybe we'll do a different stream and we kind of just show the pictures of the people victims. But it is my sincere hope that this individual, this white supremacist who just perpetrated a hate crime on an innocent, will spend the rest of his days behind bars, and heaven help us in the next world as well, said Governor Kathy Hochul, speaking near the scene of the attack. Now, she was the one, if you watch the stream on Saturday, she was the one I pointed out will be the point person in New York for executing the plan of, hey, look at this, now it's time for censorship. She will be the one that's saying that. Look what he did on here. Look what he did on there. Because she was doing it in that first initial sort of news conference. So, but that's, sort of just the bare details of the shooting. We're not going to play the video or anything like that, but just to give you, to give the audience a little bit detail of what happened there.
Yeah. So I want to share is, you're not going to get this on a lot of other channels, right? Because a lot of people who fall for the liberal talking points, once again, they want to just paint this as a right-wing thing. And this is a white community problem. This is an American problem, right? While people are trying to paint this as just a Tucker Carlson issue, who is currently funding Nazis to the tune of billions right now? The liberals, the liberal establishment, the progressives are funding Nazis. And then they were like, oh my God, we got white supremacists here. You guys are enabling them. And I'm not bringing this up for no reason.
It's ridiculous.
I'm not bringing this up for no reason. Look at this. Big shout out for Ben Norton. He was on Anti-Imperialist Summit for flagging this.
Yeah.
The white supremacist terrorists who killed at least 10 people at the grocery store in Buffalo, New York, and live streamed it, Peyton Gendron, published a fascist manifesto using the same black sun Nazi symbol used by the Ukraine neo-Nazi Azov militia, which NATO in the West is currently arming and training. And we showed this many times because I did a segment where I showed how Zelensky was promoting Azov fighters who had a black sun on them. They're the same symbol.
Wait, go back to that first one again.
Yeah. I guess I should go through a slower. So this is one of them here.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's read the description on here. The one on the far left, emblem of the neo-Nazi military user Azov. This is the one in the middle, the emblem of the Nazi SS military unit, and this is the Nazis' black sun symbol. This is Azov Battalion. This is the people that we are popping up. Like I literally saw on Twitter, bro. The Azov Battalion, they send out tweets and they do numbers, bro. Bro, liberals, who you guys think liking that shit? Bro, I see fucking Lincoln Project liberals retweeting Azov Battalion shit all the time.
What are they saying? Are they saying they're not racist? Like, what are they? Or is propaganda that is they're calling them? They're not racist.
They're good Nazis, guys. It's been proven throughout history many times. Liberals don't have any issue siding with fascists, not at all. They will side with a fascist in a heartbeat before they side with a socialist. Here's look, U.S. Look at the U.S. flag. Azov Battalion Nazis there. And this is what the symbol that was found in his manifesto, because I explained before, the Ukraine was like a hub. Like white supremacists knew that was like the mecca of white supremacy. Like, and we had many discussions about the history of racism in Europe. Like, there's been a problem in Ukraine. So a lot of people, like his shooter, what I heard, this shooter drew inspiration from another shooter who drew inspiration for the Azov Battalion and their tactics.
Yes.
Do you guys think white supremacy is not related and all this stuff is not connected? So before you blame Tucker Carlson, ask yourself who's funding the same ideology that they claim to be fighting, right? We won't let them get away with it at RBN. So we can get to the Somali story next. Unless you have anything else to share, CJ.
Yeah, just quickly, please like the this stream, like this video. We have 153 likes. Can we push that to 200 in the next 10 minutes? We have enough people to do that. So like the stream, more people to get into the chat. Also, join our mailing list. Subscribe to us on Substack. And we're gonna. They're preparing our Discord again. It's going to be very exclusive. Maybe people who subscribe to Substack can have access to that Discord. So just think of that for those that subscribe. And I think we're ready to move to the next story, Nick.
Yeah. So breaking, and we kind of explained this a little bit earlier. Biden is picking up on Barack Obama's military operations in Somalia, and now you got Biden sending troops, and this is already after they was bombing, because and I want to emphasize this because we got a few stories and a few great articles that I want to share with you guys to understand the leftist position on this. When you look at these regions that has been destabilized by the United States for decades, when you look at Ethiopia, when you look at Somalia, we just had someone who explained how the U.S. is engaging in regime change in Ethiopia right now. They don't care about the morality of what side they're taking. When you look at, and hopefully I'm saying anything correctly, the Nile Brigade that the United States back, there are a lot of Somalian activists who got big problems with this group because it's clear it's a U.S. backed puppet regime. And they are responsible for committing countless human rights violations and giving away the natural resources of Somalia to the United States. And now you had, and we're going to explain this here very soon, you got Al-Shabaab, who the United States, that's the boogeyman here. We got to fight terrorism. So we ended the war in terror in Afghanistan and in Iraq. And I explained to you guys, do not praise Biden for pulling out Afghanistan because they just changed the strategy. They shifted the war on terror in the Middle East, and now they are moving it to Africa. They're continuing the AFRICOM strategy that was laid out by NATO in the West in the 90s to help control the flow of resources, because Somalia is a potentially oil-rich country. And the Black Agenda Report does a great job explaining to this. But it's not as simple, because I explained there are two sides to this. That one, the United States back, and now the United States is fighting. But it's not simple to say, oh, there's two sides of this conflict. You literally have the terrorist organizations that we are fighting now. We used to back them. And then we used to back the group that was against them. And then we abandoned them and allowed their country to destabilize in the 90s after fighting a proxy war against the Soviet Union in that region. And then going back in the 70s, we helped coup the country and install even more radical Islamists in the region. So you must understand that the destabilization of Somalia and Ethiopia is because of the West. Joe Biden getting into this country will not help them at all. And we really have to explore what this conflict is really about. The United States has been open about them changing their strategy. Check this out. I'm going to share this first. I got all this receipts saved. I'm trying to figure out what order I'm going to go. But let's start with this one first. What I told you guys, this new Cold War that they're waging against Russia and China is the biggest story. All this shit connects. If you follow RBN, this shit makes sense to you. Because remember, when I covered how Russia was kicked out the UN Human Rights Council, when we look at this new Cold War against Russia and China, you have Africa that's not going along with it. The Western developing countries, when they say the international community is against Russia, they're talking about the West. They're talking about Europe, in their proxy states, Japan, who been a U.S. bootlicker for decades now. But when you look at the global South, when you look at Africa, when you look at South America, they are fucking done. In the United States, look, this was introduced in the end of March. This is something they've been planning because they are saying they want to counter Russian activities in Africa. They started a new. Well, it's already been started. I want to be clear, but they are escalating the new Cold War just as we predicted. They're using Russia and they're using China influence in Africa as a way to escalate in these regions. Now, let's get into a little bit of history here because it's a lot. There's a lot. Look, Somalia, from the Cold War to the War on Terror. Do you see how the U.S. shift their strategy? And once again, friend of the show, Black Agenda Report, they do a great job at explaining this. And they use the Cold War and they use the War on Terror so they can forever have a presence in this region. Destabilization is the purpose of the U.S. empire. That's why they constantly been flipping sides. Oh, man, there's so much. Like, this is a long story that I pretty much covered. I want to see if I can find a good spot to read because there's more spots that are more important than others. So they're explaining how they got introduced in Somalia in the Cold War. I guess I'll read from here just so we get a little bit of information. During the Cold War, Somalia was, like so many African countries, constantly torn between competing systems. So just like Ukraine, and from everything I'm reading, this is a divided country. And as the United States does all the time, when they take the side of people that are against governments who are not U.S. friendly, they call them freedom fighters. They're allies. Anyone who's against them are terrorists. The U.S.-backed puppet regime, and I'm going to have a guest that we had on the Anti-Imperialist Summit. She was on the Jimmy Dore show as well. We're going to have some guests that's on the ground from Somalia that can explain this to you. The youth that left in Somalia feel like the new president who just won, who now is inviting U.S. troops to Somalia, they are a U.S. puppet. They are a U.S. puppet. And this is what the United States always do. So anyway, let's continue here. So this is a divided country. So it is already exploiting their sovereignty by getting in the middle of this. You guys understand? They criticize Russia because Russia has said, we want to denazify Ukraine. And you can criticize the invasion, and that's the same criticism they use. Oh, you can't denazify that region. Who are you to say that? So isn't it funny the United States is using that same excuse? Oh, we're gonna fight terrorism in that region. Well, essentially the people we politically disagree with. But the people they side with are responsible for countless human rights violations. This is the person I want to bring on. You guys saw her on Jimmy Dore. She was on the Anti-Imperialist Summit. And I am standing in solidarity with the No More movement. There's a giant movement in Africa because they know the history of AFRICOM. They know the strategy of the U.S. does not serve Somalian interests, do not serve Ethiopian interests. The United States have been invading and been a colonial power in Africa for decades. Not Russia, by the way. So there's a big movement among young people, the No More movement. And I want to bring these people on, especially in light of this event. They reached out. I'm going to bring them on here soon. She says, a day after the new Somalia president, that many Somalis decry as a known oppressive U.S. puppet. So what they're telling you guys right now, everyone is anti-war to the propaganda come out. Because I literally see so many morons that are like, oh, we should do this because they're fighting a terrorist group, Al-Shabaab, who had ties with Al-Qaeda. That is not our moral fucking decision to make. Like, you are not anti-war if you believe we should be able to pick their oppressors, because the oppressors that we are siding with are responsible for countless human rights violations as well.
Right.
What side who we going to choose? The United States is going to choose whoever the most loyal, who's going to give and extract resources from them. And I'm going to explain that here very soon, because it's all about oil and resources. And I know there's a lot that we got to break down. So CJ, I apologize for going long. Go ahead. I'll allow you to chime in real quick.
I'm just going to read this. I'm just going to read this because this is part of what you're saying right here, or maybe it's related. It says Somalia is always fighting because of our tribes, and that is what the USA has capitalized on.
Yeah, let me pull the other receipts. I got so many receipts on this. I'm literally trying to decide which order I'm gonna go through.
And this is Zoya. What's up, Zoya? He was inspired by Christchurch mosque attacker who reportedly went to Ukraine. We know he was there. He was making contact with far-right groups, says Andrew Little. Minister, what is NZ is Minister Intelligence.
So Zoya always dropping receipts, always dropping facts. I'm gonna show the receipts because Zoya sent me this other one that's very interesting. Actually, I'm gonna pull it up now. Both Somalian president and the country prime ministers have rejected the oil exploration deal inked by one of the ministers, and the leader said they are protecting the country's national resources. And apparently, this is the group that the United States are against, and this is the argument that anti-imperialist Africans are making. Because remember, imperialism is a global economic order. It's not just when troops move and military operate. It's all about the global economic order as laid out by Lenin. So here's the receipt. And I would love to get more information when I interview people on the ground. Here's what Zoya sent me. So now the new leadership made a swift reversal on the oil exploration deal. So this is the U.S. puppet that will side with the U.S. Companies and corporations to loot Africa, which sounds very familiar to what? Venezuela. Nicolas Maduro was picked out. Unfortunately, he lost. In this situation, the United States puppet government just won an election. That has been pushed back multiple times. This election has been pushed back because this country is a failed state. There's so many, and this is why this is so complicated, guys. And not just one faction against another faction. Mm-hmm. This has been a failed state because of colonial powers like the British and the United States that have been involved in this country for decades. Because it's all about getting the puppet leader they want in charge. They do not care.
Extract resources, so they can extract resources.
Here, I'm gonna share this one. I'm going out of order just a little bit, but I think you got. Hopefully, I'm just educating you guys on this because I'm still learning too. We learned this as a community. This was written by the Gray Zone, so I know this is a great source here. And they explain. I read this whole article. I'm gonna see if I do. I'm gonna read the end. The end is actually really good, but this is the concept I was explaining. Everyone say, "Oh, you guys should go there to fight Al-Shabaab," right? The United States literally helped topple Al-Shabaab back when it was a more moderate group, and then eventually they aligned and they merged with Al-Qaeda in response to the United States toppling them. After them, they propped them up. I tell you, it's so many shifts. This story is so complicated. You can't just say, "Oh, the United States just want to take out the terrorists in that region." Both sides are human rights violators, and the United States has shifted, abandoned sides. And look at this headline here. In Somalia, the U.S. is bombing the very terrorists it created. What did that remind you of?
It reminds us of Osama bin Laden.
Yes.
He was our friend.
Every time, bro. And I was
talking about this
earlier, CJ. It's always the same fucking story. It's always conflict rooted in the Cold War, which is the global class war. It was a class war against the capitalist class. Because in Somalia, there was a movement of Marxist-Leninists who started to reject the Western capitalist societies in the 70s. So the U.S. sided with a more extremist Islamic group to topple them because you can't have a Marxist-Leninist.
Hell no.
We had the Soviet Union that was taking their side too. It all rooted in the Cold War that shifted to the war on terror, and now we back to the new Cold War. That's why we had to cover this. Why I covered the NATO escalations. People who are just talking about everything else, like this is not the biggest shit that's happened recently. Like this new global shift in strategy that the West has had started really since 2018 that they openly have this shift. Now they had this declaration where they're declaring essentially war on Africa. Anyone who's friendly with China, Russia, they're going to install puppet regimes to stomp them out. Now, let me ask you guys how that lesser two evils going. CJ, feel free to chime in. I'm gonna try to slow down.
I'm just gonna read this. I'm just gonna read because based off what you're giving the information, people are great comments, and I just want to pop.
Let's do a comment chat. Yeah, let's do a comment chat.
Yeah. So
I haven't read anything.
Somalia, Nick, I didn't know this part. Somalia just elected him yesterday.
Yeah, and that's the U.S. puppet guy. And then people are saying, oh, and there's so many shit libs in my tweet. They were saying, well, you can't say that it's an invasion because the government invited them in. Yes, that's the puppet. That's a puppet regime.
Right.
Many
That's the same thing with Ukraine. Like if they're a puppet, you can't act like they're doing it on their own. That's the
and guys, I'm listening to my no war brothers and sisters, the people who calling against U.S. intervention in Africa. According to them, anti-war activists in the area in Africa are tired of these puppets that are backed by the West. Days would have been much better if we never got involved. Because in the 2000s, and they're gonna explain this article. I'm gonna read it so we can get more info. But they explain like Al-Shabaab, they used to be much more moderate. A lot of these groups that the U.S. later backed used to be much more moderate, and then they were pushed to extremes by the West actions, as tradition in modern global history, right? So, honey, let's read some more comments because I'm probably missing a lot of good comments. I haven't read any because I'm doing this.
Yeah. We're gonna get your comments up, but real quick, like the stream. What's up, Zoya? Like the stream. We are at 217 likes. We can clearly do another 100. So can we get to another 100? Can we get to 317 in 20 minutes? 317 in 20 minutes. We had 300 subscribers, so let's go. All right. What's Zoya's comment? Go ahead.
I'm also interested in seeing, well, this is a side comment, how many white leftists really take this issue on. Big props to Jimmy, because he platformed the same person we had on the anti-imperialist summit.
Yeah.
Ethiopian war change, regime change. There are a lot of people who talk about Ukraine, Russia, but obviously as a Black network, we are invested in U.S. imperialism in Africa. A lot of white leftists tend to ignore it. And this is something I've been guilty of, because obviously when I wasn't as revolutionary discipline as I used to be, I would just follow whatever like anti-imperialist media is following. And then I learned, oh shit, maybe I should be following Black Agenda Report instead. Like people that actually cover the global south. There's some people that they're so like they cover the Middle East because it's such a big story, but they're not really interested in Black pain, as you said many times. They're not interested in what the U.S. is doing in Africa. They're not interested in child slaves that we're sponsoring in the Congo. We support that regime that is doing that. They don't care. They turn their head. So I'm trying our best.
Because it's in our interest. Because it's in our interest, and it's just a casualty, just like the double tap incident. Yeah, just like killing the peace person, the peace. I forget the guy, but murdered him. But let's go through some comments right here. So, how many proxy wars? 2 now. Biden, Ukraine, Somalia. That's one comment. Another one, the first proxy war is making Raytheon and Lockheed Martin so much money that, of course, they want another. So that's a great point.
This is only going to... Oh, man. This is so fucked, man. It's so fucked. Because I'm going to show you this article. Actually, man, I'm sorry. Maybe I'm mad that our super chat has been disabled because there are a lot of good comments I'm missing here.
I'm going to seep through them, and then I'm going to star them. So you can just go to the start section whenever you want to do that.
Yeah, let's start some comments.
I'll just do those.
I'm gonna there's 2 good resources that is not influenced by U.S. propaganda, right? This is the one that explains how the United States created the Somalian terrorists. So Trump, and this is what I mentioned earlier, remember Trump was bombing Somalia and then eventually ended the operations in the region. Now the United States getting back into it, right? And this part is important because this is where you're going to hear a lot from liberals and propaganda. You have successive U.S. administrations have cycled through a myriad of excuses. So they just come up with any reason they want, CJ, to bomb the country or to arm the dictators, to side with the dictator they empower now, that side with U.S. companies over the well-being of Somalian people, right? Whether the Cold War's politics, when they say they want to fight Marxist-Leninism and they want to fight Soviet influence in the region, like they did in Ethiopia as well. And then they also say humanitarian intervention. Oh my God, they got oppressive government, the people are starving, so we're going to intervene and make the situation worse, which they have done multiple times, as this article going to explain, as Black Agenda Report going to explain. I remember this when I was in high school. Remember the pirates in Somalia? And yes, I remember I used to follow that story. I used to think like, yo, that shit's crazy, bro. Pirates are real. They use that as one of the excuses to send arms and take sides in this conflict. And now the most recent one is counterterrorism. You see how they always these excuses to get involved where they are not wanted? What they're doing is no different. If you criticize Russia, is no different than Russia taking a side when they're like, all right, we're gonna protect the ethnic Russians in eastern Ukraine, in the Donbass region. So what the United States is doing, they're like, all right, we want to side with this oppressor instead of the other one. That's them intervening in their country's natural conflict, which is taking away their sovereignty. Do we understand? There's a lot of people who don't. I literally see Touch and Lips mad at me reporting on this on Twitter. They're like, oh my God, I can call this invasion. I can call this an invasion of their sovereignty. That's why. And then they go explain the U.S. as an imperial bulwark. I'm going to skip this part because this talk about AFRICOM. I already kind of talk about this. Actually, I'll probably cover just a little bit of it. The African Command was founded in 2007 by George W. Bush administration. And they targeted purposely Somalia. Like there was like a list of like 5 to 8 countries that they had in the region where like, all right, we must maintain dominance and we must maintain presence no matter what. We gotta find a reason to do that to favor the United States, right? And AFRICOM has been extremely destabilizing to the region. I'm working on. I had this guy on my call-in before where he was an expert on AFRICOM. I gotta bring him back on. We talk about the destabilizing influence of AFRICOM and the operations that NATO and the West would do in Africa, right? So now they talk about the Somalia geopolitical importance to the U.S. empire. I want to get near the end here. See, this is another part I want to emphasize. International interference drives Somalia's civil conflict. So Somalia has been a failed state for a very long time. Even the newly elected president wrote about this in great detail. Because just like Ukraine, Somalia is a deeply divided country. You got the story is similar. You got more people who are aligned with Western values that want to do trade with the West. You got people who are more anti-capitalist that want to divorce themselves from the West. They are more like Saddam Hussein minded, where they just done with the West, period. And there's actually a coalition that have been formed with a lot of leftists. Once again, that's the hashtag No More movement in Africa. We are done. We can figure out our own issues. The United States getting involved drove these conflicts. So I'm going to just read a little bit of this because I always skip a bit of this. I don't want to rush too much to it. Somalia declared independence in the 1960s. Its British and Italian areas merged to a single nation led by President Aden Abdul Asman and Prime Minister Sharmake. I'm going to struggle with these names. So fast forward, backed by the West, Ethiopia blocked Somalia's diplomatic efforts to reclaim the Ogaden region. As president, Adershid took millions of dollars in Soviet military assistance and was assassinated by Saad Orfano, a young police-trained man posing as a cop and referred to in sources as a bodyguard. So pretty much he was assassinated. And this goes into a lot in the history of the Cold War between the Soviet side and the Western side. So it morphed. It changed from this Cold War where you had them taking sides of extremists against Soviet Union, against anti-capitalist sides in Somalia. And then it shifts to the war on terror. Because after they destabilized the country in the 90s, they said, okay, let's keep our hands off of Somalia now because the Soviet Union collapsed. So the Soviet Union collapsed, so they have no reason to be in the region anymore. So then when the war on terror kicked up, that's when they started to transition back into the region and started playing Kingsmaker once again. And then they go to this instance of the U.S. agents who kidnapped an innocent man. This is a false flag they did, claiming he's Al-Qaeda so they can get involved more into the region. There's just a lot of anecdotal evidence in here. I need to get to the end because the end really get to what I want to get to here. The U.S. and UK-backed regime terrorizes Somalian people. This is what I said earlier. Remember when they wanted you to pretend that Al-Shabaab is the only bad people? The people that the United States back, they have stripped human rights and they terrorized, tortured any dissidents of the region. Their police force, the Somali police force, led by the U.S.-backed puppet regime, is one of the most violent police forces in Africa. There have been people who disappeared, tortured, as they explained in this article as well. And the actions of George W. Bush in the West helped turn Somalia to extremist heaven because they constantly side with the extremist groups because they can be more easily controlled. Let's see if this is a really good and
I was just gonna say that article is really in depth. Like it really is in depth. Go ahead.
This is the part I really want to read. Sorry, CJ. This is the part I really want to read because at the end, this is actually a good way of breaking this down because this article is I don't want to spend too much time on this. I actually still want to move on to the Black Agenda Report article because they explain how U.S. They use the Somalia. Here's the next article we get to. The U.S. government turned Somalia to a failed state to steal its oil. So the destabilization is the point. So I want to read this last part and then we move on to the next article. Maybe we can do some comment checks before this. So I'm going to read here. This is Al-Shabaab, the group that we supposed to be saying choose to fight. And this is what the Gray Zone explained, how we created the terrorist radical group in Al-Shabaab. So here it is. The U.S. created Al-Shabaab in several ways. First, it's escalated Islamist versus non-Islamist tensions by backing secular warlords. And this is exactly what they did in Afghanistan and Iraq as well. They will back the most extremist, secular Islamists. And apparently they did it against non-Islamists to create this radical extremist Al-Shabaab, right? Against the ICU in the mid-2000s. This alienated moderate factions of the ICU and empowered the right-wing Islamists. Second, Washington backed Ethiopia's invasion in the late 2000s and late 2006, triggering a catastrophic for civilian populations. Many who welcomed the hardline Muslims because they imposed a degree of law and order. Excuse me. So because the United States backed Ethiopia's invasion, that's when a lot of people in Somalia decided to back the extremists because at least we can get security with them. So they're painting how the United States created this issue. Third, by painting the nomadic and Sufi Islamic nation of Somalia as a hub of right-wing Salafi extremism, Western policymakers and media propagandists created a self-fulfilling prophecy in which Muslim fundamentalists eventually joined the terrorist groups they was accused of being a part of. Wow. So in order to justify the United States taking sides on the conflict, they had to paint the Somalia as like this terrorist state. That's why this is what they did when they sided with Ethiopia, right? So then because they did this, many people who was modern, they're like, fuck, I had no choice but to side with the extremist groups now. This is how they created Al-Shabaab in the first place.
Yeah, when you hear sort of like how things come together, because when we say the U.S. supported them, but when you hear what they did to support a coup, because we say that sort of phrase a lot, where it's like, U.S. backed coup. What did they do? And it's kind of just to hear some of that detail. And Nick, a lot of great comments. They're talking about how Somalia has lithium. We're making EV batteries out of nickel magnesium alloy now. Follow the resource extraction to understand U.S. policy around the world. We've been leasing drones to countries in Somalia for a while. John McCain wanted to go into Nigeria once to stop terrorists and save women and children and got laughed at by his peers since U.S. already gets a share of all the oil, so they didn't care. Russia has lithium and now U.S. needs it, and Somalia has it, so the U.S. is back for the lithium attack. This last one here, and I'll pass it back to you. So we're fighting Al-Qaeda in Somalia. I think that's how you say it. Al-Qaeda in Somalia, while simultaneously fighting Al-Qaeda in Syria. Yes, we are.
It doesn't have to make sense. It doesn't.
It doesn't.
It
literally doesn't. When it makes sense if there's profit. That's where we have to understand. It doesn't maybe not make sense as far as humanity and the earth and all of that kind of thing, but it makes sense for profit.
Yeah, and that's
a lot of great.
That's why I see a lot of people who just fall for propaganda. Like I seen people respond to this saying because they're liberals, they had to defend Biden, right? I see a lot of Ukraine flags defend this because people have been calling out the hypocrisy, and they got to justify West's continued support for the war. So like, no, they're okay in invading Somalia, right? Because they find terrorists, the same terrorists they fought and created in the first place. They and the people
What
who are saying
terrorists?
that they're saying they are pretending the U.S. actually have an interest in protecting the people. When have that ever been historically true? When have the United States ever got involved in the country to actually protect the people? Now let's dive into the Black Agenda Report article. I'm gonna try to sum this up because just like the Gray Zone, this article there's a lot of great information here. So there's so much good information between the Black Agenda Report and the Gray Zone, and I'm sure many other anti-imperialist journalists who I just haven't seen yet. There is no reason for us to get this wrong. I already seen a lot of people get this wrong. Well, people are like, well, the government requested it. You mean the corrupt government the United States propped up? And the guy who just won? Oh, sorry.
Exactly.
There's the article receipt because this is the current event. I actually wanted to read this earlier. I told you guys I went a little bit out of order because I'm sure this had nothing to do with it. Somalia elects Hassan Sheikh Mohammed. I will not say this. I'm sorry, guys. I'm butchering names. I apologize. But he was already president before. He was the president of the United States already backed, right? He was the president in 2012 and 2017, and he just won. And now the United States say they're gonna put themselves in Ethiopia to squash out any dissent towards them. That's what it seems like. But anyway, let's go back because I wanted to put that up because I wanted to share that earlier because it's just a coincidence that this happened, right? So the U.S. government turned Somalia into a failed state to steal its oil. Bombing Somali civilians is one of AFRICOM's main projects. Now, you guys, once again, if you're a black anti-imperialist, if you're against colonialism, you never side with the West, and you never side with NATO because of their crimes in Africa. The petroleum industry analysts call Somalia promising. One of the last truly unexplored oil frontiers. What are the chances, guys? We just so happen to care about Somalian people. It's just a coincidence that every single time that we take an interest in these countries, they just so happen to be one of the last truly unexplored oil frontiers. You got Exxon.
That's just a coincidence, Nick. That's just a coincidence.
ExxonMobil licking their thumbs, licking their fingers over this. I'm kind of skimming because I read a little bit of this and I don't want to go through. I know we got a lot of good tracks to get to. One of the fastest growing sources of oil for the American market. So, and I know there's a lot of comments I have not seen because I've been going through a lot of sources here. I know CJ been flagging them, but I'm sure our community's on fire regarding this.
Yeah.
You guys been saying the same thing. Let's see. Is there anything worth reading in this part? In their latest development plan, explained that Al-Shabaab. I know I'm really butchering these down. I apologize about this, but this is the group that we're fighting, right? So they was against U.S. intervention and development activities. That's one of the reasons why the United States is against them, not because they're against. And I'm sure this group is horrible, guys. I do not want you guys to think I'm apologizing for them, but the point is, the side that the United States is siding with is horrible as well. Like there's not a region with sunshine and rainbows. Like there's not unicorns in Somalia. It's a rough region because of the Cold War and the war on terror, and us purposely doing everything we can to destabilize the region, right? So it's not about that. It's about who will actually align with U.S. interests. Saddam Hussein wanted U.S. interests out. That's why they had to deal with him, not because his ideology. So I just want that to be clear.
Yeah, you're gonna work with us. We're gonna make you an offer you can't refuse. Basically, is how we work. But I want to get your thoughts on maybe a couple of comments or shout them out. So Howie Hawkins' support for sanctions on Russia is getting stale pretty quick.
We had me and Howie. We had our
comments. So, it got a little intense a little bit at the end there.
Just know we much more supportive of the Jill Stein branch of the Green Party. That's all I'm gonna say. Say.
Hey, comrades, it's all about war, money, and more war. Zoya, understanding U.S. Foreign policy money. And then where's the other one I start? This one. The greatest threat to democracy and peace anywhere on the planet is the United States of America. Now, absolutely zero evidence exists to argue otherwise. Hands off Africa, that one. She had a bunch of other comments. Aren't we still in oil in Chad and Sudan also? Was this question?
This is the imperial system that all anti-capitalists must resist. Lenin writes, imperialism is a global economic order. Look at the global economic order the United States and the West set up, where they just steal and extract wealth by siding with extremists. I just showed you guys the historical account by the Gray Zone. They sided with extremist Islamists versus non-extremist Islamists because they know they can get influence in the region by doing that. And that's in order to maintain their economic order. So that's why we must criticize them in continuing to destabilize the region for those goals, right? And I want to read this and we get back to comic because it'd be just real quick because I found a passage I think worth reading because now we're talking about Barack Obama. Bombing Somali civilians is one of African's main projects. Washington began using armed. This is what our comments was already ahead of the article because that's all one of the comments.
Yeah,
that's how good our community is. Our community is
our community is great. Our community is great.
Washington began using armed drones there in June 2011, a decade after the first Predator drone, equipped with Hellfire missiles as an equipment, successfully fired on a tank at a remote Nevada test site. Drones were strictly surveillance tools before then, but U.S. officials were quick to capitalize on their lethal potential. Legal experts under Presidents Bush and Obama. Notice how they was under both of them, right?
Bush and Obama, Republican, Democrat, red and blue.
The U.S. empire does not change between presidents, guys.
No,
I want
it does
you guys
not.
to understand that. I've said that so many times on the channel. So let me go on to this part. Obama normalized their use, launching 10 times as many drone strikes as his predecessor. Who was his predecessor? George W. Bush Jr.
George W.
He launched 10 times as many drone strikes as George W. Bush. And
like
people still look at this guy.
George Bush has killed the most people of the last several presidents, right? In the last 10 or 20 presidents, he's responsible for killing the most people because of Iraq. I thought that was.
And then Barack Obama was like, bro, your drone strike, those drone strike numbers, that's amateur work, bro. and Obama bragged about how good he was at killing people. He saw his drone strike numbers. He's like, that's what I do. Remember, that's what I do. We torture some folks.
Yeah, you have to be a certain type of person, I guess.
Let's get some more chats. I can get some more chats.
Yeah. All right. I got a couple here. Hands off 4. I think I said that one. Isa made a good point about resource extraction during her appearance at the Anti-Imperialist Summit. I don't know if I put this one up. That's how they created Azov Battalion in Ukraine. Same playbook always. Zoya.
Yeah, I'm sure Zoya's been on fire on the chat.
Didn't Mexico just nationalize their lithium?
Yeah. I was reading about that, and it's gonna be very interesting the West response to that. I need to maybe do an update segment on that. That's very interesting, and that's why you see a lot of Western media smearing the shit out of AMLO. I need to talk to some of my Mexican leftist brothers and sisters because I know they was very excited for him at first. I want to see if he like living up to their expectations because I've seen some people criticize him. Mexico, I'm not like as familiar as I am with other states, but I just hear chatter from communities. So I would love to see what the thoughts on that. But I've seen a lot of leftists in that region be very happy about that development, right? But anyway, let's go ahead. We can continue.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna make this comment completely off topic, but it's about Mexico. I was just reading or watching something about how they're trying to not let people know or keep it silent that there's a black population in Mexico. There's black Mexicans. They've been near since the inception of the country, and it was during the time when slavery. Just think about it. If you're trapped and you slave, black people, slaves were trying to get away anywhere, so they were crossing over into Mexico, stayed there, just like everywhere. just like how we got to different parts of the country, And so they escaped, went down to into Mexico, learned the language, and then assimilated into the culture. So we have roots. The African diaspora, you know what I'm talking about, is large and is in every continent, almost every country. So just wanted to say that. Now, next comment. It makes sense if you are a president with dementia, because when you were saying it makes no sense how they were fighting Al Qaeda in Syria and fighting Al Qaeda in Somalia. So I think that's where this comment comes from. Couple of
this person said, I want to explain something to you guys a little bit off topic. He said, unfortunately, I think Pisaki's replacement is just as bad. I never, and I explained this when I did my statement on Jen Psaki. I didn't really focus on her that much. I don't understand why people pretend that Jen Psaki was like this uniquely bad person. It's the same thing under Trump. I remember.
I thought it was the same. Yeah, I'm not plugged in, so she's worse. They consider her worse, is what they consider her.
They like Psaki obviously was a big liar. That's how she got that job. I got a clip I can show you where she was lying about. I remember one time she did a press conference where she was like, "It's the United States policy not to intervene in other countries' elections." And this dude was like, "Are you fucking serious?" But the fact that she would say stuff like that shamelessly is how she got that job in the first place. But that job is you literally a mouthpiece of the president, and your job is to lie. And that position shouldn't even exist. You try the president addressing the nation.
Come on, talk, yes.
Like Sean Spicer, people hated him. People hated Sarah Huckabee Sanders in the Trump administration. Mm-hmm. I don't remember the name of the last person Trump had. They ran through three of them, right?
But it was just a blonde. I just know she was blonde. I think she was blonde. I don't know her name though, but
yeah, and hating those people is easy. But I want you guys to understand they are supposed to be the mouthpiece of the empire. Their job is to take the hate so the administration doesn't. Oh my God, look at this Jen Psaki person who lies. And the reason why her replacement is going to be just as bad because the job as press secretary is literally to lie on behalf of the president. So you cannot do that job well. So whether it's Jen Psaki, whether it's Oprah Winfrey, no matter who you put there.
Job, just like the police state, the job is the problem. The police state is the problem. Don't matter what officers you put in there. But Zoya says Ilhan Omar voted to invade. She was one who voted.
I covered this
we're winning. Progressive Democrats, we're winning.
Yeah, I covered this a while ago. There's a ton of people. There are a ton of Somalians in Ilhan Omar's district that is fed up, that is tired of Ilhan constantly taking the side of U.S. empire. And once again, these are just people I've seen in our community. There are a lot of people that spoke up and said there are a lot of people in the Somali community that wanted to primary Ilhan because she backed the United States puppet leader in Somalia, right? So that's not good. It's not good at that. She always taking the side of the U.S. empire. They feel like that she sold them out. I would love to do a follow. I would love to hear from a lot of these activists. And once again, I'm working on a few guests for this. I would love to hear their take on this as well. So someone said Joe Stein way better than calling out.
Yeah,
so we've seen Joe Stein's take like this. They haven't said anything publicly, so I'm not gonna say anything publicly. But we had Howie Hawkins.
Why do you think we keep asking her to come back on? Why do you think she's gonna be on here multiple times on this?
So we had Howie Hawkins on, and that interview that I had with him, I had to put back because he was repeating Russiagate. I gave him a lane. I was like, "God, you want to kind of like walk the shit back, bro?" That was the point of me asking them. I was like, so it was like a tough question, but hey, here's your chance to walk it back. Many people on the left see this bullshit for this reason. Then he doubled down on Russiagating. He doubled down on the Putin fear mongering. And then we had Joe Stein on, and her foreign policy is on fucking point. Like, remember, she went on and she literally asked to come on twice, and she was just on fire getting it right. So I'm like, bro, how did Joe Stein get this shit right? But Howie Hawkins is so wrong. And I'm gonna just leave it there. We don't know how that happens, but
it happens. So
it happens. So if the Green Party won't get any support moving forward, I highly suggest embracing the Joe Stein faction of the Green Party instead of Howie Hawkins. And I do not have this disdain and hatred towards Howie Hawkins that a lot of people do. I just think we have a significant disagreements, and I acknowledge that he did a lot of great work for the labor movement. and then he wrote the original. So I think he was a good leftist. It's just he got old, and I think he slipped on.
Yeah, I think that's a small. The ones that hate him. There's people that just say, I don't like his politics, like you.
Yeah, I don't
But
think we
there's
should
a
hate
small
him.
amount that hate him. Like that is really weird.
I don't think we should hate him.
We still want his green, because his Green New Deal is a lot better than the Democrats.
Yeah, his platform was good. It just we need to encourage
certain things. It's certain things. That's what I'm saying. We agree with him on like 80% of shit. They go, throw him out because 20%, like that doesn't make sense. But let me read this. Ilhan Omar.
My bad.
I can read it from here. Ilhan Omar will watch her home country be destabilized by U.S. imperialism. She's a disgrace to Africa.
Man, I really wish I could find this thread, because it was a long time ago where I saw a ton of Somalian people pissed off at Ilhan for taking the United States side in Somalia. And I can't explain it as well. There was a person that had a big thread going off on it. It was a while ago, but they're not happy with Ilhan. And we see if that actually will lead to like electoral consequences. And the only reason I say that, and this is despite my position, I think AOC, despite like all her missteps, she's safe. Rashid Tlaib is safe. Cori Bush is safe. Ilhan, she won her recent election pretty comfortably, less than a lot of people expected. But with as many Somalian people and many people on the left that is now turned off, I heard personally, and I'm a citizen journalist, so I share anecdotal evidence. I know people personally in Minnesota that said they canvassed and campaigned for Ilhan who's done. Now, how many people is that? Because I got a few anecdotal stories like that, but how many throughout the state people have done? And will that affect? Will she still have enough liberal support?
That's what I was just about to say. Like, she's replaced her stuff. She's just replaced. Like the squad actually is imploring replacement theory. They're actually imploring it by removing leftists and replacing us with liberals. That's literally what she's doing. That's why AOC's approval rating reflects the way that it is that it's underwater, because that's all of us saying this is terrible. But as you can see, she tweets out shit. People love her. You see her going on, cover of Vogue. Now she's a, media magnet. She's corporate. She's been celebritized. So that's the transition has been complete. You know what we need to do, Nick? We need to talk about the great realignment that's happening. Like the realignment of political realignment. We should do an episode on that one day. I don't know when we can fit it in. It's so much shit that this empire is doing, like literally every day. Like Somalia, that wasn't on our radar before today. We just found that out, and then we're
still following.
It's
still breaking. This is still a developing story where people are looking for more updates. So I wanted to go to a little bit of history. Hopefully, you guys understand the point that U.S. intervention will never help these people out. That's not the point. And despite the United States taking sides, actually, there's another article. There's another one I wanted to show you guys. Shit. Oh, here, let me show you guys this article. I didn't share this one because this actually makes back to the point I was making earlier. Because this is an older article. But you see, the Biden administration didn't listen. This article came out January this year. This is around time Biden. I think after this, Biden started bombing Somalia even more. So Biden didn't listen to what this person suggested. The Biden administration can change failed U.S. policy towards Somalia. They talk about Black Hawk Down. That's the military operation that was talking about in the 90s. They talk about the war on terror. But I'm going to read this part because it's actually a pretty good article. The U.S. has been involved in Somalia since the beginning of the Cold War. During the decolonization era, long before southern Somalia gained independence from European colonial powers through the United Nations troop ship system. They go into a little bit of history. I want to push forward just a little bit. There's a part I'm looking for. And here it is. The U.S. decision never to return to Somalia ended in 2001. So they shifted from the Cold War, as they explain here. I just want to say time because they just go through all right here, just all the examples of the West and the United States pairing up to destabilize Somalia, right? And this is what I explained earlier. After the Soviet Union collapsed, they was like, we're done here. We're done here. So UN forces departed in March 1995, and Somalis were left to solve their own problems, armed with the Cold War weapons, which were provided by the United States. And after this Cold War that they launched in the 90s, there was a power vacuum like there always is, which led to Somalia turning into a failed state. And then the U.S. dipped. They're like, all right, thank you for helping us wage this proxy
like they
war.
always do.
So the U.S. decision never to return Somalia in 2001. The U.S. soon began a new political project of reviving former local connections to support of reviled warlords. So if you think the United States is like, I'm going to choose the morally best person in this region, this is what we do, that's not what they do. They had connections to support of reviled warlords. And this is the era in the 2000s, summing up this part here, which led to, look at this, Al-Shabaab, the group that we are fighting now to become more extremist. I think the end part is important here because this really drives the point home that they didn't listen to. So despite the historical trajectory of U.S.-Somali relations, there is a new opportunity for the U.S. to play a constructive role in Somalia and end the ongoing violence. Are they doing that? Nope. With the incoming Democrat administration in Washington, many Somalis see the potential for a new chapter. That was wrong. One that can create mutual opportunities for both nations. The U.S. could use its influence to create formal political negotiations. They didn't do that. They didn't use their power to create negotiations. They're sending troops so they can fight and destroy the opposition. You guys see what peace activists wanted them to do versus what they did. This is why I think it's relevant to read this article. So, sorry, I really do want to read the next two paragraphs. I'll pass it right back to you, CJ. The outgoing Trump administration decided to pull out U.S. troops from Somalia, yet the Somali view of the withdrawal of the U.S. is ambivalent. Those who had a direct stake in the U.S. president are pessimistic, painting a picture of a country ruled by jihadists. But others are optimistic about a future free of foreign intervention, where Somalis are able to resolve their own problems. This is the no-war movement. These are people who want to break free from the West. The United States are backing the people who want the West to stay in, right? So this is the key part. This is the part I really want to read on the article. The U.S. need not continue to be part of Somalia's ongoing political problems when it can be part of a sustainable solution. Rather than exacerbating the unending political conflict in the country, taking sides with one Somali group after another, a new policy can pursue its development. So they're saying, and peace activists have been telling the United States, stop picking sides. When you do that, it only makes things worse. As this author said, the U.S. need not continue to be part of Somalia's ongoing political problems because just like Ukraine, it's a deeply divided country.
That's when they really want to go in. That's when we want to go in with our interests is to come in so we can pin one. Remember, divide and conquer.
That's exactly what it is. So make sure you got to check out that Black Agenda Report, Intercept articles. We can get to some more comments because I think that's the last of my receipts. This is a developing story, so we definitely gonna have updates
again. Exactly.
We definitely gonna. I'm gonna have some high quality guests. Like you guys saw her on Jimmy Dore, Harmela. She was on.
She was on her thing too. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Tabby interviewed her on Ethiopia. She literally messaged me right before we went live, so we gotta schedule time to bring them on. And hopefully I did a good job summing this up because everything I got comes from my leftist comrades in the region, reading anti-war opinions that come from the Black Agenda Report, the Gray Zone. Do not listen to the West. Only thing we can do as citizen journalists is parse together anecdotes that come from people on the ground. And there are many people in Africa which are anti-imperialists. They are part of the No More movement. These regions have been destabilized because of the West in the first place. What is done is done. So the last thing we want is the West to continue to get themselves involved in these conflicts instead of allowing Africa to work it out on their own. In any sense that the United States should ever get involved, anyone should get involved. It should be being like this broker for peace negotiations. I don't know if I would have a complaint, if anyone would have a complaint, if the United States was like this power that tried to broker peace between these warring factions.
That's not what they do, though.
Yeah, like you had the Dana Brigade that's backed by the United States. You have Al-Shabaab. That is, again, like if the United States was like, all right, guys, we just want you guys to come together and we want to do everything we can to help create peace and prosperity in the region. Like, I don't know how many people would be upset at that. That is not
there
what they
would
do.
be no problem. It would be no problem.
That's not what they do. So that's my final take on the Somalia story. We can get some more chats. We're almost 2 hours in, so I don't know how much time we have left. But
there's a couple of chats. Couple of chats we'll get to. Let me bring those up. Actually, I started a couple. 1 second, because I'm trying to get back to where I was. Okay. All right. So yeah, go ahead.
So I was just about to share this tweet. I was just looking at this is the guest I'm gonna have on. Like you guys seen her on the channel on Jimmy Dore. This is the No More movement. Me and Josana highlighted this. I think we're gonna highlight some more on the Outsider Review. But yeah, this is how many you never heard this from corporate media, not even like independent media. I see it because I'm part of the activist community, especially the anti-war movement. The Pan-African community is all about this shit. No more U.S. intervention.
Yeah, no let us handle our own shit. Let us handle our own shit. Is pretty much how it should always be. But go ahead. You were gonna say something?
Yeah, and the final thought, and I pass right back to you, CJ. And as I've explained before, when you look at Somalia, when you look at the African nations, they will always find an excuse to get involved. Whether it was the piracy thing that I remember, I remember being younger, like, yo, this shit is crazy. I didn't even think about it in terms of like imperialism. I was thinking like, yo, there's fucking pirates in Somalia. This is crazy. But they use that as a way to get involved. They use humanitarian efforts. Oh my God, Somalia, the poorest African country. So we gotta do something about it. They use that. And now they use anti-terrorism because Al-Shabaab, the group that they turned back on, that after the United States turned their back on them and supported Ethiopia destabilizing their country, they turned to Al Qaeda because it was weakened and they needed security. So that's why the Gray Zone pointed out the United States created this terrorist group. Just once again, after backing them originally, just switching sides.
That shows our loyalty, right?
Yeah,
like we're literally not loyal at all. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead, CJ. I'm done. But
no, I'm just gonna bring up a comment. This particular one stood out to me because I have a video for it. Black people were in Mexico long before the transatlantic slave trade. Check the Mayans paintings of the Olmec. I always have to say that slow. Artifacts from the Yucatan. And this person, I don't see a name there. You're absolutely right. Actually, played this video a couple of times on a couple of streams, but it is good to play it right here because when I spoke earlier about there's Black Africans, and I gave the story about the slaves, but we were there, or there were Africans there before that. And this doctor right here, Dr. Barbara Sizemore, briefly talks about it in this video I'm going to play for everybody. And then we'll get back to the rest of the comments on topic. But this is something that interests me. I want to address it here.
So yeah, I should need to see this.
They're not comfortable for white people. They're not comfortable for them to talk about the possibility that Africans were here before the Europeans. So what do you do with the heads in Mexico that you find at San Lorenzo, at Tres Zapotes? What do you do with those? All right? You ignore them. What do you do with Columbus's diary that says the Africans know a way to the west, but it goes around the doldrums, we would never survive? What do you do with that? You ignore it. What do you do with Balboa's diary that says we came upon this African village in the isthmus? How did these Africans get here? What do you do with that? You ignore it. Why? To preserve the myth that the Europeans were here first. What do you do with all of this written literature and history that says that Abu Bukhari II of Mali sent 200 ships to the west? One came back and said they were afraid that the others disappeared. And then to have Balboa find this village that looks just like Mali, where he was, what do you do with this information? You ignore it. You ignore it. Why? To preserve the myth of white superiority. That's what our whole educational process is devoted to. What do you do with this whole history? This is a written history, my dear. Written. I'm not talking about hearsay. I'm not talking about a griot said this. I'm not talking about something handed down from one generation to the other through voice. I'm talking about written history of the Egyptians. What do you do with this? You ignore it.
Absolutely. Very, very fitting. I just wanted to play that with that question or the comment from our audience. But let's get back to the topic and put up a couple of comments. Tell me if you have any, comments that you want to make here.
We was roasting on Tucker Carlson earlier, and I saw a video I never got a chance to do a segment on. It was a tragedy because he brought this expert on, and they pretty much had this extremely racist, anti-black segment. Maybe I can find it and show it to you guys how insanely racist this lady was. She was saying that black people had a ton of resentment because of white superiority. So they saw the accomplishments of white people, and we was jealous of this. And Tucker Carlson nodded along, like, yeah, that's exactly what it is. And the reason I'm bringing this up because this video, they whitewash the accomplishments of non-whites. It's important to showcase that because it's not anyone jealous of what you guys have done. There are great accomplishments that everyone has committed, but they whitewash history.
Imagine people saying the people who built the pyramids is jealous of their. Imagine that type of dumb shit. Like it just doesn't make any sense.
I gotta find it, man. Because it was on one of Tucker Carlson shows. He brought on this insane.
Oh, the people that taught you algebra, they're jealous of you, right? That makes absolutely no sense. Some people deny blacks ruled Egypt. Yeah, we know all about this. Yeah, go ahead.
I found the article version. Hopefully they So I just looked it up real quick. So hopefully this is a pretty good source. I was trying to find the video, but this is she's a UPenn professor. She was on Tucker Carlson's show, and she was like, blacks resent Western peoples. Then she went into India as a shithole. I want to find the video where she really. Hopefully they talk about. Hold on, let's play this video. I got 50 audio.
This might be it, huh?
It's only 50 seconds. So hopefully this is it. Like, cause there's a part where she gets into it with Tucker Carlson. Well, even I watched that video, like, God damn, that was racist. Holy shit! Like, it was like, you remember that Dave Chappelle skit when you you hear someone say something so racist, you just can't but help. Like, God damn, that was racist. That was anyway. Let's play this. Hopefully this is it.
And shame of not. There is just a tremendous amount of resentment and shame of non-Western peoples against Western peoples for Western peoples' outsized achievements and contributions. I mean, it's really unbearable. I was actually, leaving aside American blacks, who I think do feel that resentment and shame and envy. I mean, it's this unholy brew of sentiments. I was talking to Glenn Lowry about this bizarre fact that Asian and South Asian, Indian doctors at Penn Med, which I know people there and I know what's going on there, that they're on the ramparts for the anti-racism initiative for Dump on America. America is an evil racist place.
That's clown shit right there.
The funny thing is, the video that I saw, it actually gets worse. Like, that was only a 50-second video. I'm not gonna waste too much time. Maybe I'll dedicate another segment another time, find the whole clip. But that interview was crazy because it was pretty much complaining about everyone who said America sucks. And I think about what she just said. She's like, everyone, they just hate the outside accomplishments of the West. You mean the accomplishments that was built through slavery? No one has a bigger accomplishment than the 800 million people lifted out of poverty in China. No one has a better accomplishment. The fact that we survived slavery, we survived Jim Crow, we survived the Black
Nick,
Code.
let me give you an example of how she's in her mind able to say this, but what she's forgetting is this. And I'm going to give you an analogy through baseball. So the reason Babe Ruth is revered is that you kept black players out of the league. So now you want to act like Babe Ruth is the greatest all time when you kept black people out of the fucking league? Let's add that to what she's talking about here. So you're talking about all the patents that white people took when their slaves invented it, and don't even talk about the telephone, because that's suspect that it wasn't Alexander Graham Bell's black assistant. Look it up. So I'm just pointing out the fact that just because a white person is listed as the inventor, we all know that's during slavery, that wasn't the case. We all know that. And the thing is, if you have to be put on a pedestal after you oppressed people, and that's the way you win, and then you want to say you're just mad because I keep winning, motherfucker, you got necks on got your foot on everybody's neck. The fuck?
Yeah, so my mind decolonized. I don't know about you guys. So how will you define success? Like we can debunk it. Well, once again, we can go either way, CJ. We can debunk it at face value, and we also can explain why their entire premise is bullshit. The success of Western societies, like y'all have motherfuckers that are hooked on OxyContin and big pharma drugs. Like you got people in the white community, despite all the wealth you guys have stolen, that live in destitute poverty in the South. Life expectancy has fallen. Cuba life expectancy and literacy rate is higher than the South. Despite the amount of resources that you guys had gathered and stole from rich lands like Africa and South America, you still have a poor working white class. So you see how she defines success based on what? Based on, like, I'm literally asking you guys, like, what does she define success on? The base of global empire? Global empire that helps who? Her and Tucker Carlson. There are poor working white people that are struggling under the U.S. empire. So how do you call that success? My mind is so decolonized when she said, oh, the white Western society accomplishes all these successes. I'm like, where, motherfucker? Because you got an iPhone? That iPhone, that's a toy. Like, look at the quality.
You accomplish your successes on the backs of indigenous black and brown people in order to get your success. Like, it's so ridiculous. And my comments about Babe Ruth, I guess, shocked some people. If Babe Ruth shocked you, there's a lot of shit that black people think that will shock you that you would be surprised we don't give a fuck about. Like this Queen shit in England. Why are we still talking about the fucking Queen?
I can't believe
the racist monarch. Like, fuck her. Fuck the Queen. We don't give a fuck about anything like that. Elvis, no talent. Like, it's a bunch of shit I would say that would shock you because you think we bought into the white propaganda, which we have not. The Beatles, garbage, trash. You get what I'm saying? Like, get the fuck out of here. So there's a ton of stuff that if you think Babe Ruth is the most shocking to you, no. Anyway, I think we've come to the stream.
Yeah.
We've ended it on a sort of a lighter, funnier note. And let's see if there's any other good comments for you, Nick, here.
Yeah, we also
yeah, it is. Tucker Carlson's show is racist. But let me add this part, Nick.
I gotta dig it up because there's literally like that clip they put on that. Like, I already knew that article probably wasn't gonna cover it right, but that 50-second clip, it was good. But the 2-minute clip, when you see Tucker Carlson, and I can't find it right, especially now at the end of the show. I'll maybe save it for later. But Tucker Carlson like hard agrees with everything she says. He adds to it too. And then she's like, yeah, fucking people hate America because we're greater than everybody. Why they just envious of white
That's
people.
How is that not white race? How's that white supremacy? Isn't that you're literally saying that? You're jealous because I'm better than you. That's literally what you're saying.
And then they view the empire success that was built off the back of slaves and built off exploitation as success. I don't even view that as success. Like
we got these people. We made these people do this shit for us. That's a success to them.
That is how decolonized my mind is. I know, like a lot of Americans, they wouldn't even look at it. They're like, "Oh my god, how dare you say the United States empire is not successful? Look how rich we are." Like, no, nigga, look how many poor people there are in this country. Look at the amount of human suffering. You guys destroyed the planet. You guys, and we covering this tomorrow on I guess I take this on the plug. Outside of you tomorrow, we are covering the droughts in East Africa. So a lot of people think the climate crisis is in the future. No, it's right now.
It's happening right now.
White America and your guys' industry and the way you guys created the society destroyed the world as we know it. The rich, the global north, the upper bourgeoisie, they can relocate and they haven't been impacted yet. The global poor and the global south already been impacted by white America destroying the planet. I say that because the United States was the largest polluter and emitter in human history, and it's not even close. The top 1% is responsible for 71% of all global emissions. So it's not black people, it is not Latinos, it is not Muslims that destroy the world. It is white America as we know it. But they will say we are successful. You see how decolonized my mind is? You guys have not been successful. You guys destroyed the planet, and history will remember you guys as such.
Right.
History will remember you guys for destroying the Middle East and being responsible for multiple genocides. You guys don't talk about the 100 million indigenous people you guys killed in America, but you guys think that's going to be lost to history? History going to see you guys I should say you guys, but white America and the empire that Tucker Carlson and that lady brags about, they're going to see that as the most violent and most tragic time in human history. You think about the way we talk about the Mongols now. Think about how we talk about Alexander the Great and his atrocities. That's how we're going to talk about. That's how people in the future are going to talk about this white American society that they're so proud of.
They're not going to be like, "Oh, that great freedom and democracy." They're not going to be. They're not. Just believe me.
I already pissed some people off with that rant, but it had to be said. So that's my last rant. For today.
Little Richard and Chuck Berry, great inventors of rock and roll. You don't want to get into with me with the music thing. Like, it's funny to me. People think that white supremacy only deals with economics and politics. Like, it doesn't seep into sports. Like, it doesn't seep into every aspect of our life. Like the NFL. Don't get on me in the NFL. Somehow Brady is the GOAT in the sea of black athleticism. That's the idea of Tarzan ruling Africa. It's completely absurd. But look at the stats. You mean the stats that comes from rule changes that make the quarterback important because that's the only white player on the field, and they need to be able to talk about white players? You mean that? Like,
they literally changed how the game was played.
Don't fuck with me because I play football. I'm a football player. Like, I played football. Like, I turned down scholarships because I just didn't care to play anymore. So stop it. This bullshit. I was a lifelong fan. This is recently I've understood this about football. This is recently. The trading, the combines. These are all things based in how they evaluated slaves. Yeah. So it's a lot involved here.
I'm a combat sports fan. I watch a ton of Muay Thai boxing. I watch some UFC, not as much as I used to, but more of a combat sports guy. So I'm telling you, looking from the outside in, I used to play football and basketball by college. I lost interest in team sports. The idea, and I know this is ignorance, I'm gonna piss a lot of you people off, but the idea that you have a middle-aged white guy that is considered the GOAT in a sport filled with 6'5", 300 pounds motherfuckers that can run.
Get the fuck out of here!
What kind of fucking sport is this?
Right, to me, there's two positions to me on the field that don't even have the possibility of being the greatest, and those are the two least athletic. That's kicker and quarterback. But you see, Nick, but you can see the racism on the field. The white guy being protected by all the labor. Do you see what's happening on the field?
Dude,
The white guy here and gets all the credit. He's the brain on the field, the one that they trust. The white. Do you not think that player remaining white out of all the other players? Do you not understand that is on purpose? They don't need. Why do they think that you have only all these white coaches, white executives? Because the white owners don't really trust the people on the plantation. They don't trust the slaves really to run the shit. That's why they got to have their field managers, aka quarterback, aka ref. You don't want to get me started in this shit.
Why do you think like we're the only country that fuck with US football like that? Like other countries don't fuck with it because other countries see American football, they're like, yo, that's pro-war propaganda. That's a capitalism allegory. So
yes,
they don't fuck with it. So that's very interesting. I actually never looked at it that way, and that's actually a very good point. I just know me just being a combat sports fan, the idea that you have. And by the way, the only reason like Tom Brady, he retired like in his like mid 40s. Like Peyton Manning was in his 40s. You got all these Brett Favre was a fucking old fart because they changed the rules to protect these motherfuckers. Football used to be a much more physical game. It used to be a much more running-based game. But they changed
the quarterback position. The quarterback position was just like the other backs. You had a halfback, quarterback. They were just in line. It was really football. Really, just it used to be you line up and you run. Every play was a run play, and it only transitioned to passing later. But it was every play was like a run play, and you had the halfback, quarterback, fullback. That's where those names come from. And then it just not recently, but it switched maybe the last 50 or so years to something different, maybe more.
I remember I pissed off a few lefties agree with me, but I pissed off a bunch of NFL fans because I essentially said this is like the most capitalist shit ever. Like y'all watch commercials for 3 hours for 13 minutes, and then you got ads everywhere. 13 minutes of action, and that's by studies.
Right.
And y'all just watching ads. That's it. And it's
that's
cool.
All you're watching.
In Kansas City, we are barbecuing city. So like a lot of people they're watching shit. It's kind of an excuse for hanging out. And I'm down with that. I'm down. I'm not shitting on that. But it's like, guys, you guys have this fucking
it is. That's why sometimes I gotta watch it without and then it's like all the commentators are all white. It's like, why am I listening to a 60-year-old white person talk about basketball? Tell me that. Why am I doing that for? Why am I being forced to listen to them trying to use current vernacular, Nick? Have you ever listened to like a 65-year-old person try to describe basketball using word like, oh, it slaps? Like, it's like, what the fuck? It's like, like using slang. And I'm like, oh my God, this shit is terrible.
Yeah, and the only thing I'll say, and then we can wrap up, is the reason I brought that up, they changed the rules to make it a passing-based game because of capitalism. They're selling you ads, and they want to make it more exciting. So they turn it into a more pass-based game. They put all these protections on quarterbacks, and they essentially changed the game. And now that changing of the game made it so you can call middle-aged, unathletic white dudes the GOAT of a sport filled with athletic talents and geniuses. That's how insane that sport is. I don't get it. I'm more of a combat sports guy. And if you look at combat sports, you want to know who's killing the game right now? Africans and Russians. African and Russians are killing the game. There's no protection for old unathletic men. It's the ultimate level of meritocracy. There's not a quarterback that is taking the clout that is owed to his offensive line. It's you in the fucking ring. You are responsible for how good you are. And because of that, that's why we had 3 Nigerian champions. And then you had dominant Russians all over the sport right now. We
should maybe do a sports show on here. We've been talking about doing all this stuff.
I did a little bit of combat sports coverage on the other stream. Some people say they like it. Maybe I might do it a little bit near the end for fun. I know most people follow me for politics, but
it would be something completely different where people understood like we're doing something outside of our normal stuff. So if you don't want to watch this, Brazilians,
Africans, and Russians are killing combat sports right now. And Dubron's is killing the game right now. Brazilian's always been on top. Obviously, you got European strikers that are doing really well, like Tyson Fury, because the American heavyweight division in boxing is not the same as it used to be. but people like Francis Ngannou, Kamaru Usman, Idris Adesanya. You guys realize that Nigeria and these black French athletes that led the French from winning, like black French athletes led them to winning the World Cup. Remember that? They are just now getting access. And this is something that the black community has been warning y'all. Y'all think LeBron is an athletic freak? Wait till you see these Nigerians who never had that infrastructure. They're just now being introduced to sports. You know, Kylian Mbappe from France, he's the 19-year-old black striker who's dominating soccer right now. There's a ton of them. This is a long story. I'll keep it short. But because of immigration, they got a lot of African immigrants.
Yeah.
They are now taking over French football. And now French win a world title because people like Paul Pogba, Kylian Mbappe, and then you got people like Kamaru Usman, you got people like Francis Ngannou and combat sports that are taking over. There are a lot of these people who they come from amazing athletic genetic lines. They just never had the opportunity and the infrastructure to join American bourgeoisie sports. That's why I like combat sports, because it's truly international and not like just super border restriction.
That's more basketball. Basketball
NBA
is way more it's way more international. Like the top players are all international. So, but yeah, I got to get off. Dinner.
Yeah, that's my last
for
me. We can get off.
So everybody, thanks for watching. We're at 365 likes. If we can get 35 more and get to 400, we can do that. We still got over 200 people watching. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching on Rockfin. Thank you for watching on Twitter, and I think we streamed on Twitch. Also tomorrow, Tuesday. Are you doing anything tomorrow?
Yeah, I think I'll be on call-in tomorrow. I've been doing it usually around noon times. We had a discussion today where we were talking about the shooting. Kind of the same theme. I was getting great callers. I think we're gonna do a show on gun control tomorrow, because for people who haven't watched, I already gave my take on this. I see a lot of people getting this wrong, so. Me and Zoe, we're gonna come up with a nice title. I want to get some liberals in there. I want to get some right wingers who think I'm anti-gun, and I want them to be introduced to the Marxist position. So that's the call-in tomorrow. I think we're gonna do a gun show call-in to get you guys opinions on that. So that's something that we're working on. Zoe been helping me co-host those. So that's tomorrow.
And I don't know if Joe Sana's doing something later in the evening. I
got Outsider's View. Josana.
What's
the name? She got a good guess. Like, she actually got a guess.
Yeah, you got a 60 p.m. Yeah, now I'm looking at it. So we have the Outsider View also tomorrow, because I'm not doing my show tomorrow. I do need to take a break.
Yeah, you need it. Yeah, take a day. Take a day, brother.
I need to take a break.
What's the damn name? We having a guest. Oh yeah, we having a guest that's someone that's gonna talk about the Buffalo shooting.
Is it in the title or no? Because I have the title right here. If it's in the title, I can look it up.
Anyway, it's gonna be a super outsider review. I think we're gonna do a longer show because we're gonna have a guest, and and also gonna cover, as I mentioned earlier, the droughts in Africa, and there's a few other international stories I want to touch on. So. Also, yeah, thank you for that comment. I guess I can say this as we wrap up the stream. Thank you guys for helping us hit 17,000 subscribers. Once again, if you enjoy this content, please support us on Patreon, and continue to like, share, and subscribe. So thank you guys for supporting. CJ, last word?
Yeah. We've had Justin Jackson on before this last season started. We'll see if I haven't seen him doing podcasts again lately. If I'm wrong, maybe I'm wrong. I haven't checked in a while. But
I'll just answer this because I saw a few people asking this, and people ask this all the time. We are demonetized right now. YouTube has been fucking with us since day one. That's why we've been asking you guys. YouTube, we don't like this bourgeoisie platform has refused to show us any support. They recently demonetized us. They haven't been paying us. So that's why we've been asking. If you guys want to support us, Super Chat's not really the best way to do it. We demonetize, so like even sign up for like a $3 subscription on Patreon. That kind of stuff helps out. Also gonna try and set up another super chat system where I can have Venmo chats. I saw someone doing that a long time ago.
Yeah, I think it's a different way. We just got to figure it out, Nick.
Yeah, but anyway, that's why we don't have super chat. So if you want to show support to the channel, please support us on Patreon, and maybe we'll get the super chat option figured out. I'm also thinking about I'm gonna start having like leave Rumble tips and Rofkin tips as well, because that's actually a better way to leave super chats as well. But we gotta discuss that a little bit more. So But
Yeah.
I'll pass to you, CJ, and we can wrap up because it's been a good.
I think this is it for me. I don't have anything
fire.
else. I'm gonna be off tomorrow. I'm not sure about the rest of the week, but everybody will know unless something major news drop. I might do an emergency stream, but yeah, I'll be off for a couple of days. So that's all I got. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like. Let's get us to 400. We're gonna leave you with this video of Stokely Carmichael's. This is before the name change, so I'm using the name on this video. So let's listen, and we're not coming back after this video. The stream will end after the video, but let's listen to Stokely Carmichael. And where is it at? All right, so
the country to its knees if it messes with a black man. You're saying that the only protection for black people is that they unite, so that when one black man is touched because he's black, there's some protection for him. Now, it's obvious that that protection does not exist in this country. It does not now exist. And the only people who can have that protection are black people. And black people know that. Now, white people may not know that. So it means that you have to build a movement so strong in this country that if one black man is touched, every black man will rise up and let this country know they're not going to tolerate it.
If one black man is touched.
That's right, because he's black. I mean, if a black man is walking down the streets of Mississippi, down a highway with a Bible in his hand, he is shot because he is black.
That's one incident.
I can name you a lot of others, and you know that yourself.
In the northern ghettos,
if one black man in California is driving his pregnant wife to the hospital and he is shot by a white racist policeman, I can name you more incidents.
then you're saying fight violence with violence.
I am saying that we must build a movement of black people that will protect ourselves so that we are willing to stop that by any means necessary. Now, I'm not concerned about the question of violence. It seems to me that that will depend upon how, in fact, white people respond. If white people, in fact, are willing not to bother with black people because they are black, then there's going to be no question of violence.
When you read stories about difficulties, riots in Omaha or Cleveland or Brooklyn or Chicago or wherever,
I call them rebellions.
they're rebellions. And you see nothing wrong with them?
I think that it is people who are rebelling against a system that has locked them inside tight of ghettos, that exploits and oppresses them, and they have no means of redress to break that system down. We intend to build within black people the realization that that problem is not theirs, that's created by white society. It's purposely created by white society, and then they throw it back on us and blame us. That's the first thing we have to create in black people. The country